In today's lesson, lesson 9.3, solving quadratic equations using square roots, we're going to find another way to solve quadratic equations. Now, you may end up with two real solutions when you have d greater than 0, one solution when d equals 0, and no solution when d is less than 0. So this is when we have a positive number, 0, or a negative number, because remember, we cannot find a square root of a negative number. So let's go ahead and take a look here at example 1, solving using square roots. First thing I'm going to do is simplify. So I'm going to divide everything here by 2. So I end up with x squared minus 16 equals 0. And I want to get x squared by itself. So I'm going to add 16 to both sides. So I get x squared equals 16. Nice square number here. So I'm going to find the square root of both. So x is plus or minus 4. So here I have two solutions. 4 times 4 is 16. Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. So do not forget this part. This is where a lot of students forget that the answer is positive or negative 4. Now I'm going to do the same thing over here by getting x by itself. And when I do so, my negative 8 cancels out. So I'm left with x squared equals 0. So when I find the square root here, and the square root of 0 is, well, 0. So here we had two solutions. Here we have one solution. Now, I bet you can guess what's going to happen with our next one. So what I'm going to do here is subtract 3 from both sides. So I've got negative 2x squared equals 24. Divide, oops, getting ahead of myself here. Divide both sides by negative 2. So I have x squared equals negative 12. Now, the thing is, when I go to find a square root here, well, we can't find a square root of a negative number here. So my answer is no real, no real solutions. All right, so now it's your turn. Go ahead, hit pause. Try 1, 2, 3, and 4. When you are done, hit play and check your work. For number 1, you've got x plus or minus 5. Number 2, no real solutions. And number 3, x is equal to 0. Let's take a look here at example 2. So I want to solve the quantity of x minus 3 squared equals 16 using square roots. Well, what's nice is this is a perfect square and this is a perfect square. So what I'm going to do is find the square root of both. Now when I do that, I get x minus 3 equals plus or minus 4. Be careful here. So what that means is I'm going to need to solve this twice, where I have x minus 3 equals 4, and x minus 3 equals negative 4. So I'm going to have two solutions here. Add 3 to both sides, so x equals 7. Add 3 to both sides, so x equals negative 1. So for example 2, I have two solutions, x equals 7 and x equals negative 1. All right, it's your turn. Go ahead and try 4, 5, 6, hit pause, and when you're done, come back and check your work. So for number 4, you should have x equals negative 7, one answer, because when we found a square root, our answer here was 0. Number 5, be careful here. So we have x equals 9 halves and x equals 3 halves. Then for 6, we have x equals 5 halves and x equals negative 7 halves. Now in all these cases, we ended up with an answer that was, well, a nice number, a whole number or a fraction. Now that's not always the case. Sometimes we're going to have to round. we want to make sure we follow the directions here where it says round the nearest hundredth. So the first thing I'm going to do here is divide everything by 2. So I end up with x squared plus 5 equals 16. Now I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. So I end up with x squared equals 11. So I'm going to find the square root there. So I'm going to find the square root of 11. I'm going to round the nearest hundredth. So that's tenths hundredth. So that's 2. So x equals plus or minus 3 32 hundredths. All right, so now it's your turn. Go ahead and hit pause. Try 7, 8, 9, and 10. When you're done, come back and hit play and check your work. All right, for number 1, you end up with x equals plus or minus 3 16 hundredths. For number 2, you'll end up with x equals plus or minus 63 hundredths. And for number 9, you'll end up with x equals plus or minus 3 37 hundredths. All right, let's now take a look here at example 4. The storage container has the shape of a rectangular prism. Its height is 6 feet. Its length is 2 times its width. So we have height is 6, length equals 2w, and w is going to equal the w. And so the volume is 288 cubic feet. Find the length and the width of the container. So volume is length times width times height. So I have 288 equals 6 times 2w times w. So we have 288 equals 12w squared. Divide both sides by 12. So I have 24 equals w squared. I'm going to find the square root of both. So w equals approximately 4 9/10 feet. Now the question was find the length and the width. So the width, 4 9/10 feet. The length is twice that. So we have 9 8/10 feet. Make sure you actually answer the question. All right, let's take a look here then at example 5. The surface area of a cube has a side length A given by the formula S equals 6A squared. Solve the formula for A, then approximate the side length of a cube with a surface area of 724 square inches. So it says solve the formula for A. So let's go ahead and do that first. So S equals 6A squared. Divide both sides by 6. So I have S divided by 6 equals A squared. Find the square root of both. So I end up with the square root of S over 6 equals A. Now I've got a surface area here of 724 square inches. So I'm going to replace my S. So I have 724 divided by 6 equals A. So I'm going to use my calculator here, and that ends up with 10 98 hundredths equals A. So approximately 11 inches. Nice job. Go ahead and get started on today's assignment. You can find that right there in Schoology.